Mercedes are in a really tough spot. Toto Wolff and both of the drivers have accepted that they're a long way off where they want to be with the car, and that hard decisions are having to be made on how to move forward. Mercedes' big issue is that while the car has no major problems, it's simply not fast, losing a lot of time in the high-speed corners. At least last year they had an obvious problem with the bouncing that was explaining their lack of pace. This time though, they're simply lacking downforce, and other teams have found big gains, especially Aston Martin. Mercedes also know it's an aero problem because Aston Martin buy their engines, gearbox and rear suspension from Mercedes. So from a mechanical standpoint, the cars are fairly similar. Both Mercedes drivers have said the car lacks downforce and they really feel the car sliding, especially later into a stint. Motorsport Italy have reported that some members inside the team want to accept the pain of 2023 to build a better car for 24. Already admitting defeat only one race into the season. Even George Russell was quoted as saying to motorsport.com, "We obviously want to optimize every single result, but if you give me a choice between fighting and having a chance to win races, whenever that is, versus slow progress and never having that chance, you obviously choose the one of taking those victories. So if we want to sacrifice some races or part of a season to give ourselves a chance to get a car that can fight, whether it's the second half of the season or even if it's looking forward towards next year, that's maybe what we're going to have to do because clearly we're a long way behind." Another interesting thing that motorsport.com reported on was that James Allison is now back at the team and working on future updates for the car. James Allison was the former chief technical officer before Mike Elliott took over. Allison took a step back from the Mercedes team and instead went to work with the Ineos Team UK sailing team. Ineos, of course, being one of the Mercedes sponsors. It's now reported that Allison has made his way back to Mercedes and is working on the car going forward. The extent of this work isn't clear, nor is it exactly clear how the team dynamic would work, considering it would almost certainly be a kick in the teeth for Elliott, having his predecessor come in to work on a car that he has sadly been unable to get competitive for 2 years. What we also don't know is why Allison is back at the team. Did he request to return? Perhaps he'd done what he needed to do with the sailing team, or has Toto Wolff given him a call and asked him to come and help out? We just don't know. It also doesn't mean that Allison can simply wave a magic wand and make a better car either. Allison was responsible for creating some of the most dominant Mercedes championship winning cars, but the fundamentals of the W14 aren't exactly a great place to start with, and the car shares a lot of issues with its predecessor. The rumours suggest that Imola will be the first upgrades that Allison has had a hand in, and that's at the end of May. That would mean quite a few races where Mercedes would very much be struggling. There are other interesting snippets of information that have been doing the rounds on the internet as well, namely from an Italian website called Sala Stampa Racing. The website suggests that the W14 car is actually a hybrid, a sort of prototype that is combined between this year's car that will come and the W13 from last year. It suggests that because Mercedes was so behind last year trying to fix their issues with porpoising and the like, they weren't entirely able to get on top of their issues before the start of the season. Essentially, this means that they needed a base car to make sure the mechanical side of things, like the bouncing, weren't causing a problem and that issue was resolved, before bringing their final car, if you want to call it that, the real W14, a few races in. Baku or Imola is the suggested timeline. Now, while this timeline tracks with the other reports of a Mercedes upgrade coming in and around that time, I'm not entirely sure I buy it. Essentially, what you're saying is that they've released a temporary car just to test out the fundamentals mechanically, but they weren't able to get the aero completed. If this was the case and Mercedes knew they were starting the season with an undeveloped car, I don't think they'd be so openly negative about their performances. Instead, they'd be saying, oh, in a few races, we hope to close the gap. We've just got to, take the pain. Instead, they are openly talking about changing concepts and hard decisions being made. That sort of public slating of the team doesn't really make sense to me if they already had a planned upgrade and they knew they were starting the season with essentially a temporary car. Either way, James Allison being back at the team is something that will get tails wagging, and I'm really interested to see exactly what this upgrade of Mercedes looks like. That is, of course, if they continue to work on this car concept and don't abandon it entirely. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and maybe check out a few of these other recent videos, and I'll catch you next time.